Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling confused? Like something didn't sit right, but you couldn't explain why? What if I told you that feeling isn't random? It's often a sign that your reality is being subtly distorted. Not through obvious lies, but through patterns you don't notice in the moment. Words that make you doubt yourself. Situations that shift the blame. Relationships that slowly make you question your own memory, emotions, even judgment. And the scariest part? Most people don't realize it's happening until they're already deep in it. So in this video, I'm breaking down the hidden manipulation tactics that quietly shape how you see yourself, and how to recognize them before they take hold. Let's start with first tactic. Gaslighting. Everyone's heard of gaslighting, but not everyone truly understands what it is or how it affects them. Gaslighting is when someone interferes with your sense of reality. It doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, like someone gently rewriting the story over and over until you begin to question yourself. You remember something clearly, and they tell you it never happened. You try to explain how something made you feel, and they say you're being too sensitive. Not to disagree, but to make you question what's real. And over time, you start believing them more than you believe yourself. That's what makes gaslighting so powerful. It doesn't hit all at once. It builds slowly. One small moment at a time. One conversation. One look. One denial. Eventually, you start second-guessing everything. Your memory, your emotions, your instincts. It shows up in all kinds of relationships. Romantic, family, even work, and it follows the same pattern. Confusion. Doubt. Silence. Because if someone can make you doubt your version of reality, it becomes easier to control you. So what do? You get clear. You start writing things down. You trust how something made you feel, even if someone else tries to twist it. You don't need permission to believe your own experience. The more clearly you see what's happening, the harder it becomes for anyone to distort it. And once you stop explaining yourself to someone who's pretending not to understand, that's when you take your power back. Love bombing. Love bombing is less commonly recognized, but just as widely used. It feels amazing at first, and that's exactly the problem. It begins with intensity, not care, not genuine affection. Intensity. You suddenly become the center of someone's world. They're obsessed with you. They call you perfect. They talk about the future on the second date. There are constant texts, late-night calls, overwhelming compliments, unexpected gifts, and everything moves so fast you barely have time to process it. It doesn't feel like getting to know someone. It feels like being swept away. And for a moment, it's hard to question it. Because who doesn't want to feel adored? But that's the point. Love bombing isn't about you. It's about creating a feeling, one that becomes hard to walk away from. Because once you're attached to that high, everything changes. They pull back. They go cold. And suddenly, you're left wondering what you did wrong. You start blaming yourself. You try to get back the version of them that never truly existed. The one who said everything right. The one who seemed perfect. That version was the bait. This is how emotional control hides behind romance. It shows up in toxic relationships, narcissistic dynamics, and trauma bonds. Love bombing isn't love. It's control disguised as intensity. So how do you protect yourself? You slow down. You ask questions. You focus on patterns, not promises. Real connection takes time. It builds gradually, not in a rush. If someone tries to rush something serious before trust has even formed, it's not love. It's a performance. And you don't owe anyone an encore. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping is one of the most common and most subtle ways people try to control you. And the thing is, it doesn't usually look like manipulation. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It's a sigh, a pause, a quiet line like, "After everything I've done for you." They don't say it directly, but suddenly you feel like you've let them down. Like you should have known better. Like saying no makes you selfish, cold, or ungrateful. That's how guilt tripping works. It's not about what you actually did. It's about making you feel like you failed in some invisible way. Even when you're just setting a boundary. Even when you're doing what's right for you. It turns care into currency, and your kindness becomes a debt you feel pressured to repay. And the worst part? It works. Especially if you're empathetic. You feel the tension, the silence, the disappointment, and before you realize it, you're apologizing for something you didn't do, or agreeing to something you never wanted. It shows up everywhere: families, relationships, friendships, and it always aims for the same outcome. If I can't make you say yes, I'll make you feel bad for saying no. So how do you deal with it? You pause. You step back and ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong? Or am I being made to feel like I did? Real guilt comes from your own values. Manipulated guilt comes from someone else's need for control. You are allowed to hold your boundaries, even if someone tries to punish you for it. Triangulation. Triangulation is what happens when someone pulls a third person into a conflict instead of speaking to you directly. It doesn't feel like a direct argument. It feels like a conversation happening around you. Suddenly, you hear things like, well, Sarah agrees with me, or everyone thinks you're overreacting. That's not communication. That's strategy. Triangulation creates a dynamic where you're no longer dealing with just one person. It feels like you're up against an invisible group. And because of that, your voice starts to feel smaller. You begin to question yourself. Maybe you're being difficult. Maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you're wrong. And that's the goal. When someone triangulates, they're not trying to resolve the issue. They're trying to win it. They build alliances. They shift focus. They position you as the problem. This shows up often in family dynamics, like when one parent complains about a sibling instead of addressing things directly. It also appears in relationships, when someone brings in a friend, an ex, or even a therapist to validate their side. Now you're not just disagreeing. You're defending yourself against a narrative. And that's exhausting, because the real issue gets buried under layers of opinions and assumptions. So how do you stop it? You break the triangle. You keep things direct. If you have a problem with me, talk to me, not about me. You don't need to defend yourself to people you never even spoke to. You set the tone for your own conversations. And if someone refuses to meet you there, you're allowed to step out completely. White Knight. The White Knight looks like a hero on the surface. They show up with concern, solutions, and help you didn't ask for. At first, it feels supportive, like someone finally understands you. But that's only the beginning. In toxic dynamics, the White Knight doesn't just fix problems. They create them. They stir conflict behind the scenes. They slowly chip away at your confidence. Then they step in to save you. They might tell you someone is turning against you, only to offer protection from the fallout. They build the fire, then arrive with the water. Why? Because being the savior gives them control. If you didn't need saving, they wouldn't have a role. It's subtle. It hides behind care and concern. But their support comes with conditions. It's not about helping you grow. It's about keeping you dependent. And the moment you start becoming stronger, setting boundaries, solving your own problems, they may pull away, or turn cold, or make you feel ungrateful. So how do you deal with it? You watch the pattern. Do they show up when things fall apart? Or do things fall apart just so they can show up? Real support helps you stand. A White Knight needs you to stay down. Take help when it's genuine, but never give away your power. You don't need to be rescued. You need space to stand on your own. Silent treatment. Silence can be peaceful. It can be respectful. It can be necessary. But the silent treatment is something else entirely. It's not a pause. It's a punishment. It's when someone uses absence to control you. They don't yell. They don't explain. They just go quiet, cold, distant, unreachable. And they stay that way until you give in. The silent treatment isn't about space. It's about power. You start replaying everything you said, trying to figure out what went wrong. You feel pressure to fix something you don't even understand. And that confusion is what makes it effective. Because when someone refuses to communicate, you're left guessing. Eventually, you stop focusing on your needs and start focusing entirely on getting them to respond again. You apologize just to break the silence. You soften. You bend. You walk carefully. Not because you were wrong, but because the silence is unbearable. For them, that silence becomes control. It sends a message. I decide when this feels safe. I decide when you're seen. If I withdraw, you will chase. It shows up in relationships, friendships, even workplaces. Anywhere someone wants control without conversation. So how do you deal with it? You stop chasing. You name it. If you're upset, I'm open to talking. But I won't be punished with silence. And then you hold your ground. Because communication goes both ways. And if someone only speaks when you agree with them, they're not seeking connection. They're seeking control. Bread crumbing. Bread crumbing is when someone gives you just enough attention to keep you interested, but never enough to move forward. A message here. A reaction there. A random compliment. Just enough to remind you they're still around. But when it comes to real effort, making plans, showing up, committing, it's always vague. Always later. Always just out of reach. It's emotional bait. You keep checking, hoping, maybe this time will be different. But it never is. They drop another crumb, and you follow. Breadcrumbing isn't about connection. It's about control. It keeps you emotionally invested while they stay distant. You get stuck in a loop, anticipation, then disappointment. And even though you're not being treated well, you struggle to walk away. Because they never fully reject you. They just keep you waiting. And that uncertainty keeps you hooked. Checking your phone. Hoping for more. It can happen in dating, friendships, even work. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it comes from insecurity. But the result is the same. You're left in limbo. So how do you deal with it? You stop following the trail. If someone only shows up occasionally, if their effort is inconsistent, you don't need to decode it. You need to recognize it's not enough. Consistency matters more than charm. And you deserve more than crumbs. DARVO method. DARVO is one of the most disorienting manipulation tactics, and once you see it, you'll notice it everywhere. It stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. It's a psychological switch. A way to flip the entire narrative the moment you speak up. Here's how it works. You calmly bring up something that hurt you. First, they deny it. That never happened. You're imagining things. Then they attack. Your tone, your timing, your past. Suddenly, the focus shifts from what they did to how you said it. And then comes the reversal. They become the victim. Now they're the one being hurt. Now they're the one being attacked. Now you're the problem. And suddenly, you're the one defending yourself. That's DARVO. It's not just manipulation. It's control over the narrative. It turns accountability into performance. And if you're on the receiving end, it can leave you confused, guilty, unsure if you were even right to speak up. You start questioning your tone instead of trusting your truth. So how do you deal with it? Don't take the bait. If the conversation shifts away from the original issue, pause. Bring it back. Stay with the facts. I'm willing to talk about this, but not if the original issue keeps getting avoided. DARVO thrives on confusion. It fails when you stay clear. Because accountability isn't an attack. And truth isn't cruelty.